Welcome to another episode of Dictate the Tempo. My name is Paul, your glorious host, co-host. I don't claim any hosting title. I'm claiming it. But I'm joined by. There's only two of us this week because Ryan was supposed to join us. He is currently, as we record this intro, 7 minutes late. And let me tell you, that's 7 minutes too much, so he is not joining us tonight. He has been sacked off for this evening, which means we get more of Colin's tones. Welcome in, Colin.
How's it going? I suppose we have to go look at the code of conduct that we agreed to at the beginning of the season that everyone liked and figure out what his fine is.
I think it was 2 weeks' wages, so
I think so.
Hopefully,
demote player.
Well, hopefully he's been saving up because he's not getting paid from us this week. Colin's like, wait. We get paid?
We're getting paid? So, how are you doing this week, though?
You know, it's been a good Football Manager session. I had a good play on it tonight. I've been getting prepared, ready to record Monday's episode as people are listening to this. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I'm obviously in... what season am I in now, Colin? That's the question for us all. Is what season? I'm in the fourth season now with Boa Vista, and in the week we are recording this episode, the Friday before this, I won the Europa Conference League in my first season in Europe.
Congratulations!
So, I have to say, every single episode throughout that season, I spent the episode explaining how we're not going to go far in the competition, but let's just see how it goes, see what we can do. But then, round after round, we got closer to the final. And this is a special one for you, Colin. We scored the winning goal. We went 2-0 up against Newcastle United in the final. By far the best team we'd played in the whole competition. We were a lot fitter than them because we'd had a bit of a break. They hadn't. But unfortunately, they pulled it back to 2-2, basically just due to their quality. But what we decided to do, Colin, was score in the 95th minute to win the game.
Just to give you a minor level heart attack there?
Oh, I got a little bit excited, but I mean, it's nice to win a European trophy in your first season in Europe. And like I say, season 1 with Boa Vista, we came 8th. Season 2, we came 5th, which qualified us for the Conference League. The season we won it, we also came 5th because, to be honest, Europe in the second half of the season kind of cost us a few points due to squad rotation. So we probably could have got 4th, if not maybe pushed that top 3, the magic top 3 in Portugal, but we just didn't do it. We came 5th. But this season... the first half of the season has been a really big struggle. We've been so inconsistent. We've not been performing how I would like us to, but throughout December and January, I've managed to turn around, get to grips with our squad. I was saying to you before we started, January in this season 4 has probably been one of my best transfer windows, if not the best transfer window I've had in FM24 ever. So, bear in mind, I won the Champions League with Egerson, for example. So, the fact that I'm saying this window was ahead of anything I did with them, it shows that Monday's episode is going to be a banger when we recap the transfers I've made. But enough about me winning a measly European trophy. You came up with an idea, Colin, earlier this. No, it would have been last week. To discuss on the podcast the fact that the first half of the season you couldn't defend and you were not having much hope. But apparently you managed to fix a few things.
Well, so in the 2 weeks since we talked last, I've managed to squeeze 2 seasons in because that's the kind of life I have.
Does your wife see
so
you?
I'm occasionally.
Okay.
So I'm in season 6 right now with Truro. So that season, we opened up our first 10 games in League 2, and I think I drew like 6 of the 10 games. And it was one of those, I had made some adjustments, and then all of a sudden went from drawing everything to just leaking goals all over the place. And tinkered and messed around a little bit. And long story short, we managed to finish 22nd on 44 points and survived, which was at the time a record. Thankfully, in the second season here, that record has been smashed by was it Ultra Kim managed to survive on 38 points. So I no longer hold that record, which is nice. But made some, had a good summer in season 5. My summer window, I'm not going to say it was as good as your last January one. Went back to basics a little bit. So we did some good business. So I managed to pick up some high potential guys that we turned around for some solid money and got loaned back to the club. So managed to turn that money into a bunch of high potential squad depth to help with some more rotation, revamped some training and my training approach. And at the end of the season, we managed to go from 44 points to 87 points and finished third, 2 points clear of the promotion playoff spots. And we are now in the summer getting ready for our first season in League One. So we are rapidly rising our way to the top.
Truro City going into League One. Where are Plymouth? Are they still in the Championship in your save?
I believe. Let me do a quick look because I got it up.
I mean, you've got to know where they are, because at this point you're going to be having some derby matches coming up.
Exactly. They are still. Yep. They are actually currently in the promotion playoff in the championship.
Oh dear, that'll just disappoint you if they go up though.
They are playing Middlesbrough, right? Coming up in the championship playoffs to go to the Premier League. Yeah, I'm okay playing them as friendlies right now because we keep getting thrashed. We're not quite at their level yet, but soon enough we will start taking it to them.
What changed for you? Like, what do you feel like? Was there like a major tweak, or was there a major player who stepped up? What was the difference?
So couple of pieces. So one of the big piece, and this is why I will advocate watch the games and watch what's going on, and you have to not watch the ball. And it takes a lot of sort of energy to not watch where the ball is going. So the big thing that I found was I was getting, my defensive line was getting overly aggressive, and my wide midfielders weren't tracking back. So as long as I could keep a team contained in the middle, everything was fine. And generally, a lot of the teams I was running up against were, kind of those wide 4-3-3s, a lot of central heavy tactics. So we were drawing because I was basically grinding it out. And then we started running into some teams where they were starting to play a little wider on us, and we get chewed to pieces. So big changes from my end were, one, getting involved with more player instructions for getting more out of the individual positions. So like my fullback, for example, hold position, stay wider, right? Really trying to force them to maintain their width because the players I had were naturally compressing. So really instructions on those ends, rebalancing my lines a little bit. So I play with a low block out of the gate, but I had my back line sitting kind of standard depth, so I was too much space between the midfield and my defensive line, so I compressed it all up. So now everything's, it's just generally a lot harder to get through, and you can't break, you can't really break the line quite as much on those pieces. And then the other one, I tweaked my passing directness, so I'm not happy about it because I still get a lot of long, more direct passing, but the instruction went to shorter passing just so that we're a little more possession heavy for when we're just moving the ball around. I still like more direct passing in a faster transition game, but the side wasn't quite up to snuff with letting, with being out of possession all the time. So I made some adjustments there to keep us more in possession, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think my team's a lot better on the ball now, but I'm still playing more of a direct style because I just feel like at the minute, I don't know if it's this version of Football Manager, but your players just make some stupid passing decisions when you're playing out. Some very stupid decisions.
Yes. Yeah, we've given up more than our fair share of goals by a goalkeeper passing it to an opposition striker, which I use. You could. My neighbors, I hear those. They are frustrating to all.
I've had a couple of goals where my goalkeeper passes out to the defender. I play more direct, but I always have my goalkeeper play to central defenders because what's the point of kicking along and just giving it back to the opposition? At least build up. When we say we play more direct, it means we go and defender, maybe across to another defender, then into midfield to another midfielder, then to the striker. Playing more direct doesn't mean we're just going from defender to attacker, which I think a lot of people get confused with on that option.
Yeah.
What I want to discuss with you is your defensive shape out of possession. So you said you compressed it. So if we look at the defensive shape picture first, and if people put in their head, you have a picture of the pitch and you have your mid-block line of engagement, then you have your defensive line, which could be standard, for example, alongside a mid-block. What are the setup that you have for them two lines?
So I have low block and much higher defensive line.
Okay, so you have low block, and you have much higher defensive line, which on my screen makes my team look like they all just sat on top of each other. Like you say, you have found that the only option they have to get past you then would be just to go over the top, and then at that point your goalkeeper's there.
Right.
In terms of the sorry, please.
No. Exactly. Is now I've made it so that you can't or I've done everything I can so that you can't pass your way through me. And for the most part, that seems to stymie a fair bit of what the AI is trying to do.
Now, the trigger press, which I hope this is adjusted in Football Manager 25, which I assume it will be. So the line of engagement is when the trigger press kicks in. So if we go back to the football pitch, line of engagement, you have low block, which basically means halfway line or a little bit further back, depending on that defensive line where they almost push the rest of the team. Now, the trigger press is indicating to your players, okay, as soon as they cross the line of engagement, which is something used in football. When I was coaching Bjerkreim, we had on the sideline of the pitch, you had lines maybe just past the halfway line. You'd have one on the edge of the box, for example. And when the opposition comes past that line, my wingers know, okay, now we press, for example. That's what this is. A trigger press is how often you are pressing. Are you asking your team to press? Are you asking them to press as soon as they cross the line? Are you asking them to not press as much and just keep the shape? What are you asking them to do?
So I trigger the press more often in there. So as soon as you get, effectively what I want my side to do is I want them to group up and kind of get into this compressed 3-line shape. So when I lose possession, I don't counter press. I go into regroup, and then obviously I go to count. When I win possession, I move into the counter. Right. And then what I want them to do is I basically want them to sit kind of, to your, using the pitch analogy here or the visualization, right? I want him to sit from about 10, 15 yards out from my box to the center line and just be very compact and very dimensionally stable, right? And very positionally stable. I don't want guys roaming all over the place, right, in this. And then I'm perfectly okay for the opposition side to come bring the ball up because it starts to create more room for me, right? So what I ideally want my side to do is I want you, the opposition team, to progress into this, and then now you're in, and I can trigger off, and I want to get the ball back quickly in this jumble, and then I want to directly and quickly, to your point, not route one, but I very quickly want to move the ball to very fast strikers or very fast wide midfielders who are now effectively getting behind or just about behind where your whole team is, because I've invited your whole team to effectively come into the midfield to my third of the pitch, and now you're effectively exposed, and now I'm running overloads. I've got bucket loads of guys all over the place to overrun your goalkeeper is effectively what I'm looking to have happen. Everything works ideally.
I love the idea, and I would love to actually test an experiment of setting up a tactic with a very low block, very compressed, very tight, but then in transition you counter and you play two very pacey strikers, 20-20 acceleration pace, for example, same with wingers, and just see how effective you can make a tactic where, like you say, you are inviting the opposition into your half of the pitch, and then you are going, bang, we've got the ball, we are going to counter you now.
We're gone. So, I mean, just for added context, so my attacking forward is a 15-15, pace acceleration, and my deep line forward is a 14 acceleration, 13 pace.
Yeah.
And I have some. We'll get to that later. I have some issues with my attacking forward, but and some of what we'll talk about in terms of the side effects that I'm getting out of him are because he can break much. The opposition defensive line is pushed so far into us that when he breaks, offside becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
Because they're so pulled into us.
My only thinking there would be I would be maybe looking at having a target man alongside him with the idea of asking the target man to mark one of the central defenders, which will prevent him from always disappearing offside. But that tells your players, because I find very annoyingly, if you have a target man or a playmaker on the pitch, no matter where your players are, they will try to pass to them. And it does my head in.
Yes.
Just because you have a target man doesn't mean you should try to hit him every second of the bloody game. I did try. I played a playmaker for a few games, and no matter where my fullbacks were, they tried to pass it to him. But I would like to see how that would work, where you bringing the opposition on, your defenders win the ball back, they pass it straight up to the target man, he controls it, turns, plays it through for that striker to run on.
So interestingly enough, we're thinking fairly similar. So I'm shifting, as I go into League One, I'm shifting to my second striker being a target man, mostly because I found a much more skilled and athletic Peter Crouch type guy who, the name of the game on set pieces is just aim at his forehead. So I'm interested to see it. So to your point, one of the things explicitly in my tactic is I don't have any playmakers in there. So my midfield is box to box and a ball winning midfielder, specifically because of that is I don't want, whatever the match engine logic is, to your point, like playmakers are like gravity wells and the ball is always going at them. I don't want that. I want the ball to be able to move around quite a bit and really move forward efficiently.
Yeah.
To be able to snap through a team.
So in terms of back to the out of possession discussion, your tackling, what do you have that on?
I have nothing selected.
Oh, I feel ashamed. I always have get stuck in on, mainly because I find if I don't have it set on, my players are more than happy to pull up a chair and watch people run past them. I mean, I do get a few red cards.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how many red cards I've had in this season. I'm going to check now.
I will use. So I will. So I don't have anything on tackling, defensive line, and pressing traps set up, and then I have stop crosses on the cross engagement. So I leave the stop crosses on because one of the things I'm trying to battle with the team is keeping the width. Keeping the width there is that too many of my guys wanted to drift inside. The other three, I'll use them more situationally. So to your point, if I'm running into a team that's very dribble heavy, I find that if I leave it off, I'm okay. That the way that the system works, I'm okay. If I get a very pass heavy team that I'm playing into, I'll put get stuck in and I'll have them step up more just because I need to ramp the pressure up to give less time on the ball and make mistakes happen.
Yeah.
With them. I don't bother. Honestly, I don't bother with the pressing trap. I personally, for the way I'm playing in my system, haven't really found either trapping inside or trapping outside to make a heck of a lot of difference to what I'm doing. So I typically don't bother with it.
I think I completely agree with you, and I would say these are things I would like to see adjusted in FM25 because defensive line step up more, drop off more. Isn't that what I'm doing with my defensive line on the pitch? Like if I'm selecting my defensive line to be lower on the pitch, then isn't that exactly the same as selecting drop off more on this option? So I find that them two options of step up more, drop off more very pointless when I've got that line on the pitch. The pressing trapping inside or trapping outside. Okay, yes, I like that, but in what give me more about this. I need more. And also the cross engagement I like to stop crosses or invite crosses, but then that is basically your defensive width, which you used to have in Football Manager. And for me, I would prefer to just have a defensive width option again. Because I'm going to say this now, I would always like my players to stop crosses. Because why? So if I say invite crosses, is my fullback just going to stand there and go, sorry mate, I can't stop you, just put in? Like I could technically block you now, but my coach told me we're going to invite them because we have some big guys in the middle. So
yeah, so I'll agree with you on cross engagement. I think that one sort of, like I said, I use it in exactly that fashion. I use it in the defensive width instruction.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say on defensive line is I think of the defensive line instructions as almost think of it as a half-based tweak over the main defensive lines that you can put in, right? So, like my intent when I use step up more there and I'm trying to press a passing team, what I'm really trying to do is take this much higher line, low block, and compress it by another half step.
Yeah.
On there. And versus if I say drop off more, I'm trying to open it up by a half step. Not that I'd ever do that because now I'm just asking for trouble on it. But I use the step up more as a kind of like a plus half step control over the defensive lines. But I agree with you. I'd rather just be able to say, hey, like, here's where I want my lines here's where I want my lines of engagement to stay, and here's the depth of my total shape that I want to stay.
Yeah.
Try and keep it there rather than like using these toggle buttons to kind of like manipulate what I'm trying to do in the background.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. I'm just trying to manipulate the match engine to what I really want from a spacing perspective.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at in terms of the stop and the crosses and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I would like more of the option. For example, I play a 3 at the back with the wing backs at the minute with this tactic. I would like the option to go in and basically say to my right-sided centre back, I want you and my right wing back to double up on this wide man all the time. I would like the other side to double up all the time. And that is an option to basically be more individually saying, okay, my shadow strike, I want you to drop out wide when we're defending and help the wing back. I want you to follow their fullback getting forward. Them kind of things I feel like I would like to see more. Now, I can go in and manually set him to man-mark that player. But I'm not sure.
I find that to be so dangerous.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things I would like to tweak, but at the same time, there's a lot of things where I can't tell you the best way to tweak it. And I guess they shouldn't be adjusting things for the sake of adjusting things. So it is very difficult to because I guess what you could say is everything is situational. Because I'm trying to revert back to how I would have spoke to people on the actual pitch. But again, it's a lot more like, okay, look, in these situations, I want you to read the game and I want you to come back if you need it. If you can see that man's on the back foot, for example. But that you can't really say in Football Manager. So you've got to be almost understandable.
You're at that point you're starting to rely on the mental attributes of the players that you have in the system to sort of be smart enough. And I think, I've actually found over time, I remember years and years ago, right, that the mantra was the lower down you are and the worse your players are, the simpler the tactic and the simpler the instructions, and the better the players are, the more sophisticated you can be.
Yeah.
I feel like it's inverted over time where as you're lower down with fewer of the like mental attributes and kind of the game reading skills that the attributes imply, you need to be a lot more explicit in the tactic about what to do and where to be. And then as the players get better and better, you can be lighter with sort of the broader instructions. And that's where like player instructions and some things like that start to become more relevant, because like individual player instructions, like marking specific positions and things like that, scare the ever living daylights out of me at this level versus, when I finally get myself to a Premier League level or a European level, like that's where I start in this tactic using like wingers to mark fullbacks and, strikers, we were just talking about, right? Strikers marking center backs and things like that to create those slight positional advantages. At this level with these players, all I'm doing is asking to get run over because some guy's going to, jog around the pitch chasing a guy all day long because that's what he thinks I want him to do, versus having skill and ability to go, oh, yeah, maybe this is the wrong time to go chase this guy around because it doesn't make any sense. But
he keeps looking over at the bench, giving you a thumbs up. Am I doing it, boss? Look, I'm following him just like you told me to. You're like, mate, we've got the ball. You're not supposed to hug him when we've got the ball. So you spoke about strikers marking defenders and stuff, trying to prevent them almost drifting offside. And drifting offside will segment into one of your players' column. What has he been doing? Name and shame him.
So he is a new gen, regen, whatever we want to call them in this day and age. He is Billy Walters is his name. He's my advanced forward in my system. So to be fair to Billy had 22 goals and 44 appearances for me and an average rating of 7.21, which I'm not all that disappointed with. He had a 22.96 XG, so he was pretty bang on his XG. Contributed 9 assists as well.
Very nice.
So on a 7 expected assist, level. So not unhappy with him.
But how advanced was he?
60 led all of League 2 with 60 offsides. So we've instituted a new training regimen so that when Billy goes offsides, he gets hit with a taser until he learns we don't do that anymore.
60 offsides, and how many games did he play?
44.
44 games, 60 offsides. I mean, at this point, he's just kind of having a wander constantly. And he's not. It's Darwin Núñez, basically, isn't it?
Oh my God, and then some. Like it was so unbelievably frustrating because, as I said, like my tactic relies on sucking a team in and then springing that trap.
Yeah,
and we spring that trap a fair few times during a game, and he's out there all by his lonesome going, pass it to me, and everyone else on the field's going, no, doofus, you're offsides.
You're miles away, mate.
So we played with 10 men a lot in this. Like, we played with 10 guys a lot while he's out there, picking daisies by himself.
Well, this
super frustrating.
This made me wonder, because then I thought to myself, well, surely it's them players like Theo Walcott, Aaron Lennon, players like that who must be the most offside people in the Premier League ever. The quick ones who just go a bit too early, and you keep...
Jamie Vardy's got to be somewhere on that
and
list.
you keep saying to yourself, why is he going so early? This guy's so quick, he could give them a 5-yard head start. So we're going to play a little game, Colin. Now, you have no idea who the players are on this list. So
no.
I'm going to try to give you as many clues as I can. And we're going to do the top 5, starting with the 5th. So these are the most offsides in Premier League history, because remember, football didn't exist before the Premier League. So we obviously...
Exactly.
Well, yeah, so I mean, hello. So in 5th place, he is a Belgian who played for Aston Villa, Liverpool and Crystal Palace. Benteke, yes. 221 appearances for all 3 clubs, 200 offsides. Now... this guy can't run, so I do understand why he tried to sneak an advantage. But
he's got, like, my guy.
Number 4 is even more shocking for the fact that, honestly, he's so relaxed and chilled, I never thought he would even go offside. So he played for Spurs, then he went to Man United, then Fulham. He's from Bulgaria.
Eastern, yeah, who better than me? Dimitar Berbatov.
Exactly. 229 appearances, 238 offsides.
Jesus.
Kind of shocked, because you think of him as laid back, not really moving anywhere, just the man with the first touch. So, shocked he went offside that many times, to be honest with you.
Well, he may have fallen asleep and the line passed him, I guess.
So the third person on the list, number 3, he's played Ipswich Town, Charlton Athletic, Spurs, Sunderland, Fulham, and Aston Villa.
Oh, geez.
I think he's the player for Sunderland who kicked the football, kicked a football, dear me. It hit that beach volleyball against Liverpool and then went in the goal. His first name's Darren.
Oh, Darren Bent.
Yes. 276 appearances, 276 offsides. Now, part of me hopes in his last game he knew he needed 1 to equal it, so he went offside on purpose. I mean, that's the dream, isn't it?
Hey, all the way.
So the next one, actually, compared to appearances, isn't too bad. So he played for West Ham, Portsmouth, Spurs, Sunderland, and Bournemouth. And he's also been at Toronto, I know that.
Oh, Jermaine Defoe.
There we go. 496 appearances, only 314 offsides. It's not as bad when you look at how many appearances. Defoe I can understand because he was always trying to nip in behind, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was his shtick. So I'll buy that. That makes some measure of sense.
The next one is just, I mean, I'm not saying this player was stupid, but at the same time, I'm not shocked.
Heck of a warm up.
I'm not shocked by the record. Wait till you hear this record. So he played for Arsenal, Manchester City, Spurs, then Crystal Palace. He's famous for doing a knee slide against the Arsenal supporters when he played for Manchester City. When he ran the full length of the pitch.
He's an African international, isn't he?
He is.
Oh, shoot.
Emmanuel.
Not like a Bong Lahore. It's like a Bong Lahore, Adebayor.
Adebayor, that's the one.
There you go.
Bong Lahore's definitely not African. He's from England, from Birmingham.
No. It was the name.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So 242 appearances. Ready for this? 328 offsides.
Jesus.
There's levels.
Did he spend any time on sides?
Yeah, when he ran back after scoring and slid across the pitch. So just to quickly go up the other ones. So in 6th place was Van Persie. 7th place was Gabriel Bong Lahore. Then it was Sergio Aguero, Lukaku, Shane Long, Nicolas Anelka. By the way, he played 364 games in England, Nicolas Anelka. Shocked.
Really?
Jamie Vardy was 12th. Bobby Zamora.
I would have thought he would have been higher.
Yeah. Wayne Rooney, 14th. Didier Drogba. Theo Walcott was down in 16th. The myth, the legend of Peter Crouch. Peter Crouch being offside. I mean, it could have been just his legs that long. He forgot to pull it back onside. Fernando Torres. Harry Kane's on there as well. And then you have Marko Arnautovic makes up 20th place with 149 offsides in 184 games. So, I mean, don't tell me you don't get quality content.
I mean, on some level, I reasonably expect that there's some level of offsides, right? Because I want my striker to be pushing the issue and to keep the defense aware, right? Yeah. So some level of it is fine. Abusing the sin out of it and forgetting that you actually this is a rule that you have to pay attention to is a little unforgivable. And I think my guy has trended into that realm.
I think I'm with you. I think the odd offside, you go, look, do you know me? You're pushing the limits. You got caught out. Good effort. When you hit 60, you go, look, mate, after training today, we're going to have to discuss how to stay on side. Do you understand what offside is? And he goes, yeah, it's when that line goes over, and it's like when you ask, it's like, here we go, getting accused of being sexist. It's like if I go upstairs and ask my wife to explain offside. We know how it's going to go. It doesn't go well. No. You can abuse me all I want. My wife doesn't know offside because she doesn't know football, so I'm factually correct. So get back in your hole before someone comments. But do you know what, Colin? We've managed to tick over to almost 40 minutes of this podcast. And I've got to say that I think the out of possession tactic discussion was interesting and hopefully will teach people what we do so they know not to do it. I mean, technically, you've got to stand there and go, hey, I'm going into League One.
It works. To me, I think the key to the whole thing, right, is you need to understand what you're trying to do, and then you have to figure out how to manage the tools that you're given in order to do it, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, exactly what we talked about, right? My entire tactic relies on pulling somebody in and springing a counterattacking trap. So I'm manipulating I'm manipulating the tools that I've got at my disposal to try and do that. Does it make, if you read it on the surface at first blush without any of that context, it looks like goofy. I'll give you that. It looks goofy. But have a vision, understand it, and then the other key to it is play a lot in preseason, watch what your team is doing, and don't be afraid to mess with the buttons because it doesn't necessarily, I think anybody who's played Football Manager for any period of time, I don't think is going to argue with this. Their stuff never does exactly what it's advertised to do. It always does something slightly different. So experiment with it, see what it does, and learn and make some notes, learn, and then use it.
I assume when you say it doesn't do what it's supposed to, when you click the fire up button, which should mean come on, get into this, come on, you can do it, actually doesn't do anything like that. It actually pisses them off to the point where they don't like you.
Yeah, it waits till the second half and then pisses everybody off.
Yeah, it waits about 5 minutes. They've scored a goal and you've had a red card at that point. Then the shout actually kicks in and your players go, what's he going on about?
Everybody's just confused.
Now I know somebody did ask me the other day who I beat in the run up to the Conference League. So I'll put this on the end of the podcast. So in the knockout round, we beat Bitev Plovdiv, world class. Then we played Zurich. Then we played Malmo. Then Copenhagen. Then Newcastle in the final. So we basically beat all the best teams in Europe, and we are European champions. So
I mean, don't sell yourself short. I mean, there's some. I mean, okay, fine. They're not Champions League winners per se in there, but there's some solid sides in there. How are you finding the Europa League this year?
I can discuss that. Hang on. Let me just go through my game. Very interesting. So I started with 2 defeats. I lost to Club Brugge and then Girona in the group stage. We then beat Nice and Lille 1-0 and 3-0 before beating Besiktas to win 3 in a row. We then went to Cyprus and obviously remembered that we very hit and miss and got 3-3 draw. After 3 clean sheets in a row against Besiktas, Lille and Nice, we conceded 3 against Omonia. So, we then played Rangers.
Gotta come somewhere.
Exactly. We then played Rangers at home and drew 2-2. 92nd minute equaliser from us. So I'll take that. Yeah. We then played Bayer Leverkusen. Okay. We took the lead. They pulled it back. We took the lead again. They pulled it back to 2-2. We then went attacking and conceded 3 more. So we lost that game 5-2. So we've got the knockout playoff round to come, and we will be playing Rangers in that, who we obviously played in the group stage and drew 2-2. So we have them at home first, then away. I mean, when I'm looking at the knockouts, you've got Aston Villa in it. Valencia is still in it. Looking down, who else would I fear? Marseille, Fiorentina and Porto, I think, are the other teams I would fear, but I don't think there's anyone else in that playoff round that I'm scared of. And the problem is, going through straight to the round of 16, you have Club Brugge, Anderlecht, Copenhagen. I don't fear any of them 3. Leverkusen obviously just put 5 past us. And Nice we beat in the group, so I don't fear them. But then the top 3 I think we have to fear: Chelsea, PSV and Roma.
Yeah.
So are we going to win the Europa League? I would say no. Do we have a chance with a good draw to get quarterfinal, semi-final? Potentially, if we can play how I think we can sometimes play, we've got a chance. And then you never know. I mean, back-to-back European titles would be something I would never shut up about. So maybe listeners of the podcast better hope that doesn't happen. But got to go where we go, Colin, haven't we?
Exactly. I think you're right. I wouldn't be afraid. I mean, I don't think you have much of a choice but to be afraid of Germany, England, Spanish sides at that level. Interesting that you've had as much success against French sides as you've had. I would have figured you wouldn't have, that you'd had to have been a little more afraid of French sides. Italian sides, I don't know. I find in FM, I mean, just as in real life, I find Italian sides to be absolutely perplexing. You're in for a defensive battle, but sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But giving some really good results. A little odd that you struggled as much, even on the road with. I would have figured Rangers would have been a pretty clean run, pretty clear one for you. But
the fact we had them at home as well was a bit. But what I would say is they went 2-0 up, and we obviously came back to get the 2-2 We actually scored in the 92nd minute to make it 2-2. They actually scored again in the 94th minute, but it was offside. I was a bit annoyed because I think we had about 9 shots in the last 5 minutes trying to get a goal. We dominated possession. We dominated passes. We had 550 passes during the game to their 250. We dominated. Wow. We had 90% pass completion, 86% tackle completion, 60% headers won completion, which is better than all 3 of their stats on that. We had 63% of possession. We had 12 shots to their 7. and yet the game finished 2-2. It's just one of them games, I think, where we really were the better team, but we just didn't get the win.
Yeah, I've been watching just because I like to. While I'm sitting here working, I leave long run stuff up in the background, and I've been catching up on the FIFA E Football Manager competition, and the sheer number of those games that keep coming out of there, where these guys are set up, and it's you lose one, you draw 1-1 or lose 1-0 to their one shot on target. It feels like it happens more than it probably ought to, but yeah. To see, good luck. I mean, good luck with the knockouts. I'd be interested to see where you end up getting to, and how the rest of your season turns out.
I'm not gonna lie. I have that feeling Rangers are going to turn us over, but at the same time, I have just had such a good transfer window that there's a big chance that my team pushes on to the next level over the next few months. So it is going to be interesting. But
we'll see where it goes.
Next podcast, we'll be recapping that, because at the point of the next podcast, we will be at this point of the next season. So we'll be in a solid position, hopefully not sacked, and hopefully looking for the future of the squad. But thank you for joining me again, Colin. Another Tuesday night of us catching up.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Hopefully the next time we talk, I'm in the championship.
We can dream. Oh my days. Imagine if you're in the Premier League. Back-to-back promotions before the next podcast.
We'll see what happens. That may be tall order, but it's a holiday week this week, so I got a lot of time to play.
I went too far, didn't I? Maybe yeah, holiday week. I'm going to say this now. You selfish people. Celebrating your Thanksgiving. You know what that means, doesn't it? That means my FBI shows are not coming out this week because there's a break. I was not impressed when I realised this today. Apart from that, happy holidays, Colin.
Why, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, people, and we will see you next time as we continue Dictate the Tempo.